no urban population, urbanization is 0. Case 2, all habitations are urban and have equal population, then index is 1. Case 3, all urban habitations have equal population, the index is U upon P. Case 4, migration from urban to rural area likely to increase level of IC unless there is change in Gini coefficient. Migration from smaller urban units to bigger urban units to reduce the level of K. And if urbanization is so disproportionately distributed as to make G approach, that is mathematical part, so we may, for the moment ignore. Now, policy orientation. Ariga gives Kundu Raza believe in Jiff's law, looks from the angle of economies of agglomeration, ignore presence of slums, love accretion to the metro cities, urban to rural migration, and urban migration from lower unit to higher unit acceptable. Whereas in this index, this urban migration from lower units to higher units is not acceptable, but urban to rural migration is acceptable. The new way of looking at, most of us believe that we will not allow everything to for the market to do, but planning should be there. And because we have in our neighborhood a school of planning and architecture, where I also teach something. So that came to my mind. Spatial planning is important. That is how we keep teaching. Land use planning is very important. Issue of congestion is now noted. Environmental degradation is looming and everybody is concerned about. Shifting from central business district to suburbs, partly facilitated by transportation and communication. So that itself suggests the kind of problems that they are facing. Zoning is prolonged, coming from US and for 50, 60 years that is done, and accretion becoming less attractive. Now, if I do this exercise for a status of India for up to 2001, for which I do not have detailed data, whatever detailed data I have. So you find that this urbanization index is not, IC is not generally increasing, whereas IT, which is traditional, is increasing. So this flip-flop shows maybe something policies have to be invented like that, that redistribution is slightly better. I don't know, how we shall be achieving it, but something for a small towns and cities, so many policies were at some point of time were initiated. I don't know the result. Result is coming like this. I have still to work on this. For pretty long time, I have not been working in this area. So I said most and least, which means quantitative measure U upon P. But when I have introduced this quality index of distribution, then I call it best and worst. And then you find the, for example, Gujarat, Maharashtra, they were at the top in the case of most, but Tamil Nadu and Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, something like that, they are just 1 minute. So that part will somehow it captures a better distribution of urban population itself. And thank you very much. I have one more note, because I have made request to Jashri, and I think some problems which Professor Mohammed has spoken about, not only on problems but some what you call civilizational issue. So I intend to speak before you, at some point of time, urbanization, sense urbanism. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll take a few minutes to look at the index and also examine in the context of the axioms that he has proposed. So we are not having discussion on the presentation right now. May I now request Dr. Abhinav Alakchandra, who is an assistant professor at the University of Florida. Please.
Okay, so yes, I understand I have 10 minutes, and Professor Kundu has really helped me a lot in the very beginning when he started talking about urbanization, smart city. So basically, I can cut down my slides by half. So 10 minutes is pretty much doable. So I'm presenting on smart cities in India, challenge or an opportunity. So, as I said, these are very well-known things about Indian urbanization. India is rapidly urbanizing, currently at 31%. By 2030, we are expecting 40% population in urban areas. And according to 2011 census, we have added about 17 new million plus cities, and that's about an increase of 50%, which is a big deal. And especially I was surprised to see most of these cities are in South India and particularly in Kerala. But at the same time, we have seen very marginal improvement in the service delivery capacity in last 10 years, or in fact in last 15 years. And these are like well-known problems, what kind of problems cities are experiencing, such as congestion, affordable housing shortage, increasing crime, pollution. And definitely, if we have these problems in the city, quality of life in Indian megacities has gone down significantly. Pattern of urbanization has changed. Again, I'm not saying anything new here. There is a huge shift from 1950s. In 1950s, we had few big cities, and now we have 51 million plus cities. So that's a big shift from the pattern we had. But the thing is, most of these cities which have come up, like these 51 million plus cities, they are mostly unplanned. Planning was never given a priority in Indian 5-year plans, physical planning, of course. We do have, as the name suggests, we have 5-year plans, but physical plan was never, ever given priority. And we can see the results right now. It's highly unsustainable. Most of the tier 2 or tier 3 cities, traffic is very bad, congestion. Similarly, you don't have any zoning laws, property rights are not clear, and I can go on with the problems. And then, of course, we also have a top-heavy urban structure. That is about 24%, it's 23.5 or 24% people actually live in cities having 5 million plus people. Now, but also, everything is not bad about urbanization, and that's why we are talking about it. Of course, urbanization, also some research suggests that poverty reduction is one of the good aspects of urbanization, not necessarily everywhere, of course. Productivity and wage depression also can be checked. And then increasing citizen participation is one of the things we look forward with urbanization. Now, coming to smart city project. Of course, and I totally agree with Professor Kundu when he said the best definition is the most simple definition of smart city, and I totally agree with that. We are looking at how to increase the quality of life in urban spaces. I believe that's the best definition or the variance of this kind of statement. We had about, GOA announced about 100 smart cities in next 5 years. We have allocated about $1.2 billion. It looks a lot, but trust me, this is nothing. Not even one smart city can be built with this kind of money. Even I'll talk about the cost structure later. We have also about 83 million for Digital India initiatives, and it's about, we are also looking forward to create 10 to 15% jobs. And also 7 separate smart cities along the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor are also planned. Now, looking at the worldwide, what smart cities throughout the world can teach us. Some functional smart cities are there are many rankings, so I'm not saying Vienna is the #1 smart city, but definitely there are 10 or 12 rankings available, and Vienna is constantly on top 3. So Vienna, Toronto, Paris, New York City, London, Tokyo, Berlin, Hong Kong, these are some of the smart cities. This concept originated in Europe, and idea was again to look at the efficiency and how to take the pressure off on the infrastructure which is coming because of the high density. Now, the initial focus was on energy, efficient use of available resources, simple economics 101, and reduce wastage. But there are definitely, so these were retrofitting models, which we are actually doing right now. But there is an alternative model also, the greenfield development, smart cities built from scratch. And there are two definitely, they're doing extremely well. They are kind of dream city, which you see in movies, Matsdae and Songdo, South Korea. And there is a heavy reliance. Heavy is still, like I would say, it's an understatement. Heavy reliance on ICT to link people, businesses, infrastructure, energy, and space. But again, it's the cost of building these smart cities. Of course, India cannot afford it. We'll talk about it in a minute. Now, what Vienna has high quality of living, innovation, and digital governance. Again, this is coming from those rankings, some of the quality of life indicator ranking according to 2014. Toronto has low carbon footing and smart commute system, Paris, digital governance, and green city. But at the same time, there are problems. No smart city is 100% smart. Like, for example, New York City and Paris, they have affordability problem. But at the same time, we need to see what these cities have done, which can be utilized here to address those problems. Affordability is a kind of universal problem in cities across India, across world. Now, best practices. So, I'm sorry, it's so hard to read. Now, NIC, New York City, last month, they partnered with a developer called Blackstone Developers, and Blackstone bought $5.3 billion worth of properties, and New York City is giving them some sort of $245 million in taxes, in uncollected taxes over next 20 years to make sure 5,000 units in these apartments they remain affordable. Now, this is a proactive governance. Actually, government coming up, New York City has I think it's one of the most expensive places for the real estate. Now, New York City's city coming up, and we are looking at $5.3 billion deal, which is 5 times or 4.5 times more than we have allocated for 100 smart cities. So you can just see what kind of investment we have committed. This is not realistic. That's one. Second, also, Paris, they are proactively, they are trying to make sure affordability is, make affordability is one of their priority. So what they have done is through legislation, they're saying the motto was, we don't want to have urban rich ghettos. So actually ghetto, that word is used usually with poor people where poor people live. But they just changed it, and now whenever a unit is coming up for sale, city has the first right to offer a price. Now, this is again very proactive, and this is what Paris is doing. I'm not sure whether we can do it in India or not, but definitely Paris is doing that. Philadelphia, they have come up with something called digital on-ramps. Philadelphia, they admit that they don't have very smart people. And this idea is to make people smart through app, so IBM is taking a lead. Again, this is a model of PPP. IBM is taking lead. They are teaching people how to use technology to make their life better, how to access services. So this is like, these are few of the things. Now, Dubai, so since we were talking about happiness in the morning, so here is another example. Dubai has introduced something called happiness meter. So every time, and they have something called Dubai Smart Governance Initiative. So every time you access a service, it's a real-time data. So every time you access a service, all you have to do is report, or generally it's available in every counter. Very easy to see, very easy to understand how was the service, that kind of thing. And this goes to the minister. And if, after a month or after a week, whatever is the time frame, I don't know, they reach out to the particular department and they try to correct it. So this is kind of, these are, again, proactive decision making from the government, which are the best practices right now around the world. Copenhagen, they came up with something called Connecting Copenhagen program. Again, the idea is, to use technology to make sure they reach their green initiative goal. Now, so India and smart cities. There are few, like, of course, these are not only 3 pillars of smart cities. They are like, there's something called Smart Diamond for smart cities. There are 8 of them. So I've tried to club them. I have come up with 3: governance, livability, and smart people. Now, what are the challenges in government? Inadequate capacity, transparency, and accountability. I really don't have to explain that we lack accountability, we lack transparency. Cities are highly undermanaged. Citizen participation is core of smart city project, but simply we don't have it enough. And I'm not sure how much we are doing to achieve a better citizen participation. Similarly, non-implementation of civic laws, regulation, unclear property rights, these are the fundamental problems. Unless until we take care of them, we are not going to have a really smart city. Livability, again, safety and security, one of the biggest issues. Civic responsibility, urban design and sanitation. We need to have clean public toilets. Before we think about investing $1.2 billion, we should start with that. And it's a good thing we have already started this. Similarly, slum rehabilitation, public transportation, BRTs, metros, cycle lanes. Like one of the state in United States, Oregon, they invested billions of dollars in making cycle lanes throughout the city. Now, most of the people, it was in 1996, 97, most of the people said, this is a dead investment. What you're doing is, it's kind of luxury. But the reliance on automobile has gone down by 25% in that city in last 15 years. So that is a kind of, that was very visionary. And now many cities are actually doing it. Similarly, water and solid waste management is one of the problem. Unless until we make our city livable, there is no point having a smart but unlivable city. Now, what about people? We do have problems with informal job, no social security. I'm not saying informal job is a problem, but having no social security is definitely a problem. Gender disparity in job access, there is a very, labor force participation rate for women is low in urban and rural areas. Absolute poverty is still a problem. Quality healthcare is only for rich. Overall literacy rate, just 74%. And then computer literacy. The whole idea of smart city is based on ICT. We have 6.5% population which is actually computer literate. There is no way we can achieve the target. And then there is a huge variation among states, definitely. Other key issues, 3 major issues now. Financial challenges. A new city of 1 million people may take about 10 to 15 years to build and may cost about 150,000 crores per year. So we are talking about $200 billion plus. So even for one city, we need 200 times more than what we have allocated. Most urban local bodies are not self-sustainable. What are the solutions? Again, what we have seen in developed countries, build, operate, and transfer model from the developed countries. A more realistic tariff structure. Right now, here we are, governments, of course, we have vote bank politics and other issues. And therefore, the tariff structures, what we charge for the services is really not real. It's not, forget about profitable, we can't even do break-evens. Now that needs to change. Yes, subsidies should be there in the society because we have a very different population, but a tariff structure has to be realistic in order to achieve that goal. Technical capacity constraint, again, most urban local bodies have limited or no technical capacity. To ensure timely completion of the projects. And then, of course, who wants to work for local bodies? Simply, we don't have enough good talent in these places. The solution, compensation structure should be similar to private structure, private partnership model, and transparent outsourcing. Now, the thing is, there are 2 ways right now. One, either you involve urban local bodies or not. If you don't involve urban local bodies, we are going back to unplanned development, unless until we cannot really have a top-down approach and be successful. That has never worked anywhere. We have to have a bottoms-up approach. Urban local bodies plays very, very important role in that. Finally, in 1960s, there were two projects in the United States: Smarty City Mission and Model Cities. Both of the projects were, model cities were kind of a failure. The fundamental reason was capacity building was severely overrated, and then also issue of delegation was the fundamental problem. When they were implementing this, they didn't think about it. And I see same kind of problems in our mission goals or what we have proposed so far for the smart city. And finally, how unrealistic, right now we are really, I'm not sure how we are going to have 100 smart cities in next 5 years. 15 December is the deadline to submit a proposal for the state. Government was supposed to, they were planning to have at least 20 proposal or 20 funding for 20 cities. Right now, they haven't received a single proposal. So it's now 6 more days, but government is committed to do 10 cities. I don't know how they're doing it, but that's the kind of reality we are facing right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhinav, for bringing in the global perspectives and also some of the best studies and their implications in the Indian context. May I request Mr. Vivek Kumar, who is the faculty consultant at HNI MSME, Hyderabad.
Thank you, Dr. Kundu. First of all, I would like to thank our predecessors who have given already some data. So I would like the House to look into the pictures. My whole presentation is just on the picture, and this will show. Let's set a journey from morning to late night. What actually happens in the lives of a family in a city? You can see when there is a watch right side, you can see this at 6 o'clock. They say start with something they really don't want to happen every day, but still they do like this. My presentation is based on the persons who are not having those adequate capacities.